Hey, what's up, mortals? It's me, Robert Ramirez, aka Rarzrevenge here, with a new video for you. Welcome to part 8 of What If All Might Was Deku's dad. I just wanted to greet you guys, so just sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So we begin! Now before we get right into it, I would first like to clarify an error that the writers noticed in the last part concerning Izuku's ability. Deku is now able to use 18% of One For All thanks to 3 times boost from Spartan boosts, and while he can use it fairly easily when it spreads throughout 1 or 2 of his limbs for a decent length of time, he is unable to use it in full call for very long due to the strain it takes on his body. Furthermore, he isn't able to use 18% continuously by any means, and it wears him out the most, but 15% or under is where he feels no major exhaustion or fatigue unless he's using it for long periods of time. Now with that cleared up, let's get into the story. Before the festival starts, as everyone steadies their nerves, Todoroki decides to take this opportunity and walks over to Izuku, where he calls out to him in order to say what's on his mind. Midoriya, from an objective standpoint, I think it's fairly clear that I'm stronger than you. However, from what I've seen, you're far from a pushover. Not to mention that you have All Might in your corner, but I'm not interested in prying on all of that. I just want you to know that I won't be underestimating you, and that I will beat you. This takes everyone aback, especially Izuku, who just stands there trying to think of a response. Kirishima tries to defuse the situation, saying that there's no need to act hostile towards each other so close to the start of the competition. Todoroki then turns in the opposite direction to walk away, snapping as he does so that they aren't here to make friends, and they need to take this seriously, which is when Deku quickly retorts.
Wait a second, Todoroki. I don't know what's going through your head, but I get why you're saying this. At least a little, I think. In terms of raw power, you're definitely stronger than me. But that's not all there is to being a hero, and I'll prove it by beating you!
Kirishima attempts to intermediate again, but is quickly cut off by Izuku as he continues.
No, he's right. All the other courses are coming for us, with everything they've got, not holding anything back. We can't take any of this lightly if we want to become heroes someday.
Looks and feeling of concern yet understanding washes over much of the class at this statement. As many students ponder over this, Midoriya thinks back on his training and hard work to get where he is now, filling him with more determination as he states,
We are all going to have to fight in order to stand out, but I know our classmates are just as capable as me or you. Todoroki, underestimating any of them is a big mistake. I'll be going for the top, but so will everyone else. Watch yourself, otherwise someone will swoop in and take the win. Got it?
Todoroki just looks back with a blank stare and gives a slight nod before walking off. As Bakugo just glares at the both of them ignoring him, Izuku's speech hits everyone else with a sense of motivation and strive for the top, which seals their resolve to go all in for the entirety of the sports festival. After this, Class 1A leaves for the stadium, where the moment they get to the massive entrance, President Mike gets on the speaker and begins pumping up the crowd with an energetic introduction. Welcome one and all to the one and only UA Sports Festival! Now I got one single question for you. Are you ready? In response, a large roar of cheering sweeps through the stadium, as President Mike then proceeds with the rest of his introduction. Alright, that's what I like to hear. It's your coolest JJ around here, President Mike. And I'm here as your rockin' leader commentator and announcer, but I'm also joined by first-year Hero Course teacher of Class 1B, Vlad King, as my esteemed backup commentator. This is when Vlad speaks up, saying that he's happy to be here and excited to see all the first-year students, mainly Class 1B, in action. President Mike takes this as his cue to start calling out the first-year classes, which he does with enthusiasm. Well then, I guess we should move this show along and bring out our competitors to their big stage. The crowd cheers in agreement as Mike announces the classes, starting with Hero Course 1A, which gains most of the attention as they walk onto the field, with 1B following soon after. Once President Mike calls out all the other classes, He introduces pro hero Midnight as chief umpire, which gets the kind of reaction that you would expect. Before anything else could be said, Midnight orders the stadium to quiet down for the student pledge and calls up Izuku Midoriya as the first-year representative. Everyone turns to look at Deku, who quickly feels like the weight of 1,000 eyes bearing down on him. Understandably shaking his nerves, but keeps his composure as he steps towards and onto the stage. Even with his nerves still racking, Midoriya takes a deep breath to steady himself, while his father, All Might, watches from his seat in anticipation of what his son will say. When Izuku finally speaks,
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here competing in the UA Sports Festival today. It's something that I've been looking forward to ever since I first decided going to this very school, but I'm not the only one, as a lot of people here have been waiting for this as well, with their own reasons.
When Midoriya pauses, many of the students and spectators are a little lost, but keep quiet as he continues.
You see, there are a good number of students in the other courses who want to prove themselves during this, so they can get a chance to join the hero track, or show off what they can do in their respective fields. I mention this because all of them are going to be giving everything they've got during the festival, and wanted everyone watching to know that this day isn't just about us in the hero courses. It's about all the students of UA showing what we can do while giving a chance for others with any exceptional talent to reach their goals.
This leaves everyone silent as Izuku takes another short pause before staring straight at his fellow peers with a determined look and saying,
I swear, I'll be giving this all I have, and I can't wait to see what the rest of you can do. Let's make this a festival no one will ever forget, and go beyond Plus Ultra!
To this, the crowd cheers in excitement and applaud for the speech, with many of the students from the different classes and 1A doing the same. Up in the stands, All Might smiles from pride at what his son said, feeling more confident than ever that he picked the right successor. But meanwhile, far away in a different city, Tomura Shigaraki watches this event on TV with nothing but competent. During this, Izuku walks off the stage and joins with his class, where he receives some praise from them along with others, but shortly then after, Midnight speaks through her microphone.
What a wonderful student pledge. Thank you so much, Midoriya. But now, without further ado, let's start our first competition.
With that, the first game to kick off the festival is randomly chosen to be an obstacle race, and once an explanation is given about it, all competitors are directed to gather up at the starting line. Once everyone is standing at the starting line, a countdown is initiated and finishes with Midnight calling for the race to begin. Right after this, crowds of first years swarm forward and into the gateway to the obstacle field, causing a massive backup in the process. As the mass of people struggle to work their way through such a hindrance, Izuku takes a moment to survey his surroundings to figure out a path forward. At that moment, Deku uses both of his quirks to spread 18% of One For All in each leg and jumps on the wall. From there, Midoriya jumps over the opposite wall, moving forward by a few feet and continuing to repeat this process, rapidly making it to the other side in no time. Though at the very same time as this, Todoroki generates an immense surge of ice which instantly freezes a large number of students in its wake, whilst he runs past and onto the other side as well. Believing he's pulled ahead of the pack, Choto continues to leave a trail of ice behind him in the efforts to slow down any other pursuers, but it's all at the same time that he notices Izuku flying overhead and landing in front of him. As soon as Deku hits the ground, he goes into a full sprint 18% in both of his legs. The sight of this leaves Todoroki stunned, but he reacts by sending a wave of ice straight at Izuku, which moves swiftly enough to catch up to him in mere seconds and freezes Midoriya in place long enough for Shoto to make his move. With his adversary frozen, Todoroki skates a long surge of ice he creates in an effort to regain the lead, making it close to Izuku at an impressive pace. Just then, Shoto tries to pass by. Deku breaks out of his prison by coursing 12% of All For One throughout his whole body and swings a fist at his nearby opponent. Todoroki notices this but knows that he's unable to dodge and feels such intense energy coming from Izuku that he automatically activates his fire side to defend himself. However, Midoriya is easily able to bypass the flaming defense and deal a powerful gut punch to Todoroki that's strong enough to knock him right off his ice and into the side of a nearby wall.
From there, Izuku powers 18% back into his legs and bolts towards the first obstacle as Bakugo flies above the ground, trying to catch up to the front runner. As Todoroki stands back up, many of his fellow classmates are passing him while he just looks at his hands in disappointment of himself, but Shoto regains his senses once a minute passes and uses new determination to get back into the race. By then, Izuku makes it to the field of robots, which are similar to the ones he faced during the entrance exams, including the handful of 0-point bots, all blocking his path, but Midoriya charges in at 14%, full calling, without any hesitation. In the blink of an eye, Deku dispatches a dozen machines effortlessly and continues his onslaught for a brief period, leaving all specters awestruck as they watch on, before a massive attack from a 0-pointer forces him to stop and dodge. At the moment that the gargantuan machine's fist plunges into the ground, Izuku grabs a piece of scrap metal and rushes up the large arm at 15%. While he arrives at the bot's shoulder, Deku focuses 18% in his arm and grips the scrap metal, chucking it with all of his might right at the bot's head. The projectile moves as fast as a bullet and punctures into the 0-pointer's head, hitting a critical component. This causes a series of explosions and ruptures throughout the behemoth, damaging it severely, but as that happens, Izuku hops on the back of the machine and slides down to the ground safely as the damaged machine husk collapse. After a very short rest, Midoriya blitzes a few dozen more smaller bots and makes it out on the field, right as a faint screaming presumably directed at him comes from an enraged Bakugo in the distance. Izuku continues to sprint down the track at a constant 12% for a short period until he comes to a large chasm obstacle, but he simply activates 14% in both legs and begins jumping over the small landings scattered around. Meanwhile, back at the first obstacle, Bakugo has already made it out of there with ease. Shortly after, Todoroki freezes a large horde of machines and a 0-pointer to clear the way in front of him, while also slowing down everyone else behind him once more with ice. Though Todoroki is making slow progress, he is now in third place and is steadily getting further ahead of the main collection of people as he quickly exits the field then and there. A few seconds later, with Midoriya making it through the other side of the chasm swiftly, he bolts forward. At that very moment, his path is open. Conveniently, then Bakugo starts flying over the same impediment at a breakneck pace, creeping ever so slightly closer to Izuku. Some more time goes by, Deku racing along when he comes across the last hurdle, a minefield full of weak explosives, where Izuku decides to play it safe and go through it cautiously by practicing tippy-toeing for a few feet until he hears a distant explosion and shouting coming closer with each passing second. Upon looking back, Midoriya sees Bakugo approaching his location fast and realizes that he doesn't have much time to waste. So Midoriya forgoes safety and darts off using 18% in his legs to run straight through the minefield, which surprisingly goes pretty well. Now with Izuku's mad dash across a field of explosives, he isn't able to avoid stepping on every single mine, despite his nimble motions, but thanks to the moment that he has currently, Deku does avoid any explosions that do occur and keeps moving without being slowed down. With this new burst of acceleration, Midoriya leaves the exhausted and raging Kacchan in the dust, which pushes Bakugo to go in high gear, creating immense blast to hurry along, but this also begins to strain his arm significantly, and he goes over his limit. By the time Bakugo makes it away from the minefield, he can feel the pain in his arm grow excruciatingly worse with each use of his quirk, but his stubbornness keeps him from stopping for any reason. Around this point, Todoroki finds himself at the minefield and briefly considers taking it slow, but refusing to waste any more time. He just freezes over all the explosives to make an unhindered pathway so he can reach the finish as fast as possible. Now with nothing to really interfere, Shoto briskly sprints along, lagging distantly behind the two leaders. At that very same moment, Bakugo's determination keeps burning as he pushes forward at full force, but it however doesn't pay off as Midoriya crosses the finish line triumphantly in first place, ahead of the central pack of competitors by a long ways, which leads the crowd to cheer in amazement, while the tired green-haired student sits and rests on the ground, proud of his victory. A minute later, Kacchan follows over the finish line, getting second place, landing fairly rough, and lies on the ground panting heavily from exhaustion due to such an overuse of his power, all in an effort to purely beat Deku. Gathering what little strength he has left, Bakugo sits up and glares at Izuku with an intense rage derived from actually losing to him. Wanting to yell at the top of his lungs and blow up the damn nerd, Bakugo attempts to move but finds that his body is simply unable to, and after a brief period of effort, he realizes just how raged he ran himself. This, along with him seeing the visible physical strain he put on his hands and arms, the explosive student just lies back to rest while also soaking in the feeling of his first real defeat at the hands of none other than Izuku Midoriya, the last person he ever thought he'd lose to. Thank you all for indulging yourself in this story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We the Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some ramen and some jutsu action. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description down below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here on We the Celestials, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description down below. Our Discord is all around fantastic place to be. Whether you're a fan or looking to join the band of misfits, we're always looking for more members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching. Have a great day!